Hi, welcome to the show. Today I've got two guests that you might not know them, but you probably know what they've been doing in the community. And specifically, I have the founder and CEO and head of Aden's Toy Drive with me, Courtney Monahan. And because he's the best dad in the world, she brought her dad along today, Vaughn Monagon. Thank you so much for being here.
Mm-hmm.
So, at Aden's Toy Drive, when someone asks you, what's Aden's Toy Drive, what do you tell them, Courtney?
I say that Aden's Toy Drive was a toy drive that I started when I was a senior in high school, and it's in honor of my 4-year-old brother who passed away from a cancerous brain tumor.
Wow. So, Aden, your 4-year-old brother.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen?
Well, it was just a normal day at the Monagon household, and my parents actually left for the weekend, and after they left, my sister and I got home from high school, and the babysitter who was with Aden just said that he was being super weird and acting abnormal, didn't want to ride his bike, took a super long nap, which was weird for a 4-year-old boy. And so I called my parents and I was like, hey, Aden's being kind of weird. And so they called my grandma and she went and took him to the hospital. And they were gone at the hospital for a while. And so I called and they were like, you should probably come here. And so I show up at the hospital and I walked in and my older sister was already there. And she just looked at me and she said, Aden has a tumor. And she was like, we don't know anything about it. The doctors don't know much, but they're going to transfer us up to Randall's Children's Hospital up in Portland, and they'll be able to run tests and figure out more in detail of what's going on. And so we called my parents, and they actually beat us to the hospital.
We were staying in Sun River at the time, so we'd had some forewarning that this wasn't just a flu bug or something, that this was pretty serious. And so we'd gotten on the road about the time they were loading Aden up from the McMinnville Hospital and transporting him up to Randall's.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that must have been a really hard drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was tough to communicate. Aden's got 3 sisters. Ellie at the time was 6, and then Caitlin and Courtney, I think, were sophomore and juniors in high school. And communication was just tough. There were times on that trip from Sun River to Randall's that we didn't know if he was still with us or if he had passed in the ambulance. But by the grace of God, we actually made it to Randall's just before he got there and the girls got there. And so we did get to see him come off the ambulance and immediately put in care at Randall's.
Mm-hmm.
So he's 4 years old, he has a brain tumor. Oh my gosh. I imagine the family, friends gathered at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And you had kind of a vigil. What happened?
Yeah, so we were actually super blessed at all times. So we were in the hospital for a total of 17 days. And it was super awesome because every single day we probably had 12 to 30 people in the waiting room waiting to either go and visit Aden or just for the support of the family of if we needed a break from being in the room, because sometimes it was more difficult than to just be able to walk out there and be in a room full of people that you love. And so they were there to play games, to hang out, to cry with, pretty much anything.
Well, Dad, you have 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
And what was Aden's place in the family? What niche did he fill?
Yeah, well, he was the youngest of 4 and the only boy. So I had three older sisters, and as you'll see in some pictures upcoming, just a fiery, redheaded little guy, full of energy, always climbing. I mean, he was 100% boy, always causing mischief and into things and climbing on things, and just loved being physical and with the family. He brought a big smile. His smile and his red hair brought smile everywhere he went.
But the prognosis wasn't good. So 17 days, he came home.
He came home once during that 17 days. He did pass at Randall's. We literally had 17 days notice from the time we were aware he was sick. He was when we left for Sun River, he appeared to be an absolute healthy little guy, no signs or no medical symptoms prior to that. and it happened to be just a radically fast-paced cancerous tumor that started in his brain and went down his spine, non-operable, and the doctors knew it at the time that we were there. They didn't know if he had days or weeks or months, but you don't go through life processing. What if that day comes for one of your children? So that was a whirlwind, those 17 days. The staff at Randall's were amazing. He did pass it at Randall's, but we did get a stint to come home, probably 2 or 3 days, a 2 or 3 day window where we came home with him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So evidently, Courtney, you have a special talent, and it was recognized at the hospital. Tell us about that, or Dad, what did you see?
Yeah, so for some reason, Aden was always placed in one of the back rooms, and so walking from the entrance of the hospital and going up to his room, naturally you would look into the passing rooms as you were going in, and I sadly saw a lot of the times that there was kids with no one in the room and no one with them, and at the time I didn't really process through it and realize it, but later on I realized it broke my heart of knowing that we had 15 to 30 people out in the waiting room, and these kids had no one there to support them and love them. And that just, again, it made me heartbroken for them. And I just wish that I could go around to each room and, love them a little bit. And so how the toy drive came about was my senior year, just processing through the grief of Aden. I realized that I can actually help them and impact them, and realizing that at the time I can't go into all of the hospital rooms, but if you put yourself in a little kid's shoe, what's something that you love and what makes you happy? And for me, that was a toy. And so I called up my dad and I said, I have this idea. I have no idea if it's going to work. It's close to the end of November. I was like, but let's go to lunch and talk about it. So we go to lunch, and I just pretty much said, I want to do a toy drive, and I want to give all of the toys to Randall's where Aden passed away, pretty much just with that in mind of bringing joy and happiness, even if it is just for a few seconds or a minute, to these kids to get their minds off of whatever they are going through. So before I got back to the high school from that lunch, my dad had called my activities teacher at the high school and was like, Courtney has a really great idea, go find her and talk to her. So my activities teacher comes and finds me, and he was like, so tell me about this. And I told him, and he just jumped on board and was like, I love this, I love everything about it. Next week you're speaking in the assembly in front of 2,000 kids. So
to tell about this toy drive.
To tell about
Introduce it.
my story and why I want to do it and the heart behind it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, this is really happening. So I went and I got up and I spoke in front of McMinnville High School, and they were just so amazing. The response that they gave me, that year we ended up getting 500 toys, and in years past we had tried doing toy drives and we would get 10 toys, and so that was just encouraging to me of seeing the support that my community had.
Well, you brought some pictures with you,
Yeah.
right? Paul, can you bring those up? Let's see where those will take us. Wow, what's that?
So this was the first year that we did the toy drive, and this was the 500 toys that we brought all to Randall's.
Those are good-looking toys.
Yeah.
And so at the hospital, they passed them out to these kids that you were in the same position, the kids that you saw, and your brother.
Yeah, it was just
them.
pretty much the toys go to any and all kids during Christmas time and just throughout the year of just being brought to them.
They do store them up. The hospitals do store them up and use them throughout the entire year. You might share a little bit about the delivery day that we picked.
Yeah, and so we decided to deliver all of the toys on December 23rd, which is actually Aiden's birthday.
So it's definitely a fun, special day. It's about a 10-hour delivery trip to make all of the various drops with the toys now as what she's developed.
Okay, so this was the first year, just 500 toys in one location where they went, and you collect them at the high school.
Yes.
All right, so what's the next slide, Paul? Okay. This is Aden. And Mom there on the left, and Nurse on the right. All right, Paul, next slide. Oh, there he is. Now this is, he's healthy. He went the
So,
year before.
He's healthy and good. This was that
Christmas before, so this is probably 2 months,
2
2 months prior to
before,
going to the hospital.
at his school Christmas program.
Yeah.
And that's you.
That's him
Probably
and
about
I
a year
on
earlier.
Easter.
There you go, yeah. Easter of
Beautiful.
2012. Yeah, that's that fiery redhead and that smile.
That's incredible red hair.
So this is the trip home that he got to come home for a couple days.
So this was the one weekend that we got to come home, and the way his tumor worked was it was on the backside of his brain, and so it pretty much stopped most of his motor skills. And so he couldn't do normal things like throw a ball or walk, normal 4-year-old things. It was a 6-month-old and a 4-year-old body. And so that picture, it was just showing him holding and squeezing the ball, and we were practicing throwing it back and forth to each other, just laying down. And that was a struggle for him. And it was something that we were like, oh, yay, good job. You can throw a ball.
Literally 10 days
But you're
before that.
4 years old.
10 days before that picture, he's riding his bike out in the cul-de-sac. There you go. Cute.
What's the next one, Paul?
Yeah, it's probably the summer before he passed. He and Courtney, probably Portland. Yeah.
That's us in the hospital.
Oh, I see the hospital bracelet. So
Courtney, with 4 siblings, Courtney had decided early on, we adopted Aden and we brought him home from the hospital. She decided he was going to be her best friend. And so she had pretty much trained him from baby to call Courtney.
To love me.
Yeah,
To love me most,
yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. And so Courtney and Aden definitely had a special connection.
Oh my. Oh my.
Yeah, that's Courtney on the left and Caitlin, oldest sister, on the right.
So, Courtney, you've really made this this tragedy have some meaning, I guess. Is that how it feels? Healing,
Yes, very.
I imagine, and continues. So, this was 1 year. So let's go to some more pictures. There's more pictures of year 2 and 3. All right, what's this?
So this is at the Delphian School. So the way that the toy drive works is I get bins donated, and I'll wrap them, and we take them to different locations around McMinnville, in the outskirts of McMinnville. And so this was one of our locations at the Delphian School, and this was my second year and all of the toys that they donated.
Just at the Delphian School.
Just at the Delphian
Now,
School.
that bear looks familiar. There was a
That
bear in the
giant bear?
first
Okay,
year.
Yeah.
Is it the same bear?
Possibly.
I don't know if it's the same
Now-
bear,
I don't know if
but
it's a
it's a
coincidence.
favorite.
Not the exact same bear, but
Yeah.
wow, that's quite a present.
Yeah, it was fun.
And this was the first year at the high school, and I think this was just probably a week of collecting toys. And we actually went and picked up that Christmas tree specifically for the toy drive.
That's quite a tree. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, just the support at the high school is amazing. And now Courtney going into her 4th year, the high school has been still a continued part
yeah.
of the toy drive. Yeah,
One
probably
of the
one of
sites that collects.
Yeah.
And you've expanded this.
Yeah.
And this is the second year dropping off. In the second year, we did a few more locations. I think we did about 4 or 5 locations, and so this is just 1/4 of the toys that we got that year in one of the locations that we dropped them.
So this is at Randall's Children's Hospital. It was the first drop. We also went to, and continue to go to Dornbecker's, Shriners.
Willamette Valley Cancer
Yep.
Foundation, Hope on the Hill, See You Later, and the Union Gospel Mission.
Yeah.
And then local families that we kind of picked throughout the year.
So the hospitals, Courtney doesn't necessarily get a handout of the toys, but I think it was the second or the third year, it was fun at the Union Gospel Mission, because you could hear the kids inside, and when we pulled up, by that time it was late in the evening, and we're pulling out these bins like you see in the picture, and at that point they're overflowing. We're literally dropping toys as we're going in there, and the parents are hustling the kids out of the room, right, because they don't want to see them until Christmas, and so that was a lot of fun, because those kids 2 days later probably had one of the coolest Christmases that they've had. So, and that's Courtney's heart. That's her heart and passion. Is she says often she just wants to bring joy and smiles to the kids.
And this is at Key, that last picture was at Key Bank. So what are some of the locations that you've been able to put the bins?
Last year was our biggest and most bins out, and all of the retirement homes had one. Sears Hometown had one. Union Block, most of the coffee shops actually. His work at Pacific Residential had one. Just lots of different places all over McMinnville. We had 50 bins in 50 locations.
bins.
So pretty much most stores in McMinnville.
And that's the key. When the community gets involved and they place that bin, not only is it a drop-off location, but inevitably the staff at that place of business get involved. So that's been pretty fun. You might even share a little bit of the story down on 3rd Street. Is it the Crescent Cafe? You might share the story of, remind me his name.
Michael?
No.
I've got you on the spot.
Yeah.
But I know he got involved. I think he found you actually through Cindy at the Sage. And he just did a great job. He wanted to get involved. He ended up raising quite a bit of money, and then he asked Courtney if he could go out and buy toys. And I don't know the age of his child, but I think she's 3 or 4 years old, and he had just a neat story of being able to teach her how to go buy toys and what they're for. Then they turned around and gave them to
Of
Courtney.
giving, yeah.
So
And it's neat through things like that, because I can't hit every single store in every single place. And so it's just special to me when people reach out to me and they're like, hey, can we have a bin? Because then it's their support for me and it's not me asking them. And so this was just a cool story of that, of I didn't even know this guy, and he just heard about it, and he was also a musician, and he was like, hey, for all of my local shows, like, would you mind if I put out a bin and got cash donations? And then at the end of it, take my daughter and we go pick out toys for it. And also I run a restaurant, so can you bring by 2 bins and we'll stick them out and fill them up for you? So it's just stories like that like encourage me more to, keep doing it, and that people care about it and are interested in it.
So this picture, Courtney, this is one of your donations as well. Tell the story here.
Yeah, so just again, one of those stories of this was from a man named Brian, and he just reached out to me and he was like, I heard you do a toy drive. I'm a part of a car club. All of the toys that we raise, would you accept them? And I was like, yeah, of course. And he messaged me and he was like, hey, so I have all of the toys, like, bring your truck. And I was like, oh, I'm probably not going to need a truck for it. Like, I doubt it's going to be that many. Then I show up and he raised over 500 toys with just his car club. So this is a picture of all of the toys that just came from him.
Wow. And Dad, you own a truck.
Yeah, I do own the truck. I'm not sure if
We have the
figured it
truck.
out. Yeah, we did own the truck.
And then this is a picture, so just throughout the season of raising toys, and there's a bunch of cash donations that come from that too. And so the last 2 years, we have actually gone to Target, who has been a huge support to us too, and will give us a discount. So I go and I spend all of my money there, and then I personally get to pick out the toys, which is just fun for me, to be able to, have fun with that. And I'll usually take my family and some friends, and so we each get a limit of money, and then we just go throughout the entire store and just pick up all of the toys that we want, and then come back together and all check out.
This has been quite a journey for you. Not that it's over, you're in the midst of it. You've really learned a lot, I would think, from this idea to being in one location to then connecting with the community the way you have. What's that process been like?
It's been a little crazy and overwhelming at times, but just going back to the support that everybody has, and the second year that I did it, which was the first year we went out into the community, Carmen Banky with See You Later Foundation was a huge support, and she was like, she got me plugged into Leadership Mac, and they kind of took that on for me. And so for a first year out in the community of me having no idea what to do or where to even go, that was good to be a part of it. And, it was still my toy drive, but I had so much help through that, and to just kind of watch their ideas and their takes on things, and then learning from that and being able to apply it into my third year when I didn't have as much support, structured support. And it was mostly just me going and getting all of the bins and decorating them and placing them out. And so lots of organization and
Lots of hours on the phone.
lots of hours on the phone and
Dial.
calling people and just staying in touch, checking in on the bins and being like, hey, how you guys doing? Making sure that, they're feeling appreciated too by me, because they are supporting me and helping me. So, yeah.
That second year that she was out, and she had that support from the Chamber Leadership Mac. When she got to the end, it was probably, I think, the 22nd, and Courtney had a full day's work at her day job, and she had sent me a text and just asked me if I'd make a few phone calls for her. She thought there was a few toys left at a couple of stores. I ended up having to reschedule all my appointments for the afternoon, because I think her mom and I went around and picked up about 500 toys for her. So it's just a great example of how overwhelming the support is from the community. And especially in that second year, Courtney had no idea. And I think you ended up with how many toys that second year?
Close to 2,000. I think it was about 1,700, 1,800.
Yeah, a good 500 that first year, about 1,700 or 1,800, and that's with an enormous amount of support. And then
Last year was about 2,100.
Yeah. And you've got some key people that help you, probably 3 or 4 key individuals that help you throughout the giving season.
Now, part of your process, I think, is how you and I met, which was at a business after hours with the Chamber of Commerce. What were you doing there? I don't see many high school or young people at the chamber.
Well, I've always enjoyed going to those with my dad. Even at a younger age, he would always take me to the Friday mornings, the greeters. The greeters, yeah.
Courtney's in grade school, and she would come with me to greeters.
I really just went for the food, but so he was just like, hey, I'm going to this. And I was like, oh, I would love to go. And he goes, okay, well, if you come, you're going to be working. And he was like, so, it's all about Aden's Toy Drive. So go there and meet people. And so.
And we met.
Went there and we met.
And I'm not sure who brought it up, whether it was me or you, but somehow you landed here on the show.
I'm here.
Perfect. Good for you. You put yourself out there and things happen. Well, I want this to be an example to the young people that are watching this, or that they see the process. They have an idea, they have a passion, they put in the work, they get some help. It takes a lot of phone calls, it takes dedication, and just continually pushing the ball to keep it rolling.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. Now you've got plans for another. Well, we haven't talked about the third year as much. Oh, that was the one you did by more by yourself.
Last year was the third year where I was on my own for the most part.
And now you've got plans for next year.
This coming year, yep. So just 2 months away. We're super close to it. So still working on it, but yes.
And you have a goal.
My goal is for about 3,000 toys this year. So 1,000 more than last year.
Now, people have reached out to you before. How would they do that?
The best way to get a hold of me would be adenstoydrive.com, and that will take you to our Facebook page, and through there you can just message me and I'll get back to you right away.
Okay. So people that message you might be people that want to have a bin, or they know the suggestion of a place to have a bin.
Yeah, a bin, or even like last year, I had a mom reach out to me and was just like, I'm not going to be able to provide Christmas for my child this year. And then was like, this is like his age, this is what he likes. And then through that, I was actually able to put together a little package for him and bring it to them a few days before Christmas.
So you have a lot of families that you've contacted, that were in need. And that's part of what, it got bigger last year because of that, and you'd like more of that, so getting suggestions of people.
Yeah, I love taking it, to the hospitals and to local nonprofits. I always hear amazing stories from it, but part of it is also just having those families. I know exactly where it's going and who it's being given to and the circumstances that they're under, and so that's rewarding to me too, of just knowing like this is who I'm helping, this is who I'm helping bring joy to and put a smile on their face, on Christmas, knowing that they wouldn't get anything on Christmas if
Maybe
it weren't for that.
share briefly about the Xbox.
Yeah, so my second year doing the toy drive, just through other people, I found out from a family of, it was a husband and wife, and the wife had cancer, and they had 3 boys, and the wife's cancer went away, and then it ended up coming back, and she was just going to be in the hospital for Christmas, and just through that, just with hospital bills and everything, and so we reached out to the family and just pretty much decided that we were going to get them the newest Xbox. I think it was like an Xbox One, and so we actually had someone who donated the Xbox and controllers and games, and so we wrapped that all up and took it to the family. We took it to their house, and on Christmas morning, they actually recorded the boys opening it, and one of them like started crying, and the other ones were just like jumping up and down and were just super excited. And later they shared of when the mom was home, they would put a hospital bed in the living room, but she was able to play the games with the boys, and it was just a way for them to bond, whereas otherwise, you don't know what that would look like just because she is sick, and so you can't always give the love and attention that you want to be able to. And so that was just cool for me to hear of like how impactful it was and how helpful just something little like that was to their family in that time.
You have a beautiful family, and it's forever been affected by it's passing so much different family now. Vaughn, you've been very intentional about helping this family heal. Could you tell us a little about that?
Sure. Yeah, I think just in sharing earlier, just so thankful for the support in the community. When Aden was in the hospital, this little town just really rallied around behind my family, and we consider that a great blessing and favor, because I know there are a lot of tragedies that don't necessarily get the support that we received. So we're extremely thankful for it. And that was just a real good challenge and encouragement for me as just a husband and a dad to really stay connected. My family became my number one. It was important for Tracy and I that our marriage grew out of this and we didn't become a statistic. And just really encouraged and proud of actually all of my daughters. They all do a phenomenal job. But Courtney with the toy drive, just seeing her at age 17, she's not a public speaker. This today is a stretch for her. So to see her even rally up and talk to her peers at school, that is not hard to do, or that is not easy to do at school. And then to really see her continue that, and now going into her 4th year, just makes her mom and I really proud. And we're encouraged, so we hope that brings encouragement and hope to others.
Thank you. And Courtney, I think this process has given you a plan for the future. What's that look like?
Yeah, long term, my goals would be to go to third world countries and bring toys from Aden's Toy Drive, and I'd like to work in a hospital, so bringing medical supplies from the hospitals to these third world countries and just being able to give it to them and love them and bless them in that way.
Awesome.
Well, I think from what we've seen today that that's going to happen. Wow, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Ken.
And good luck with this year.
Thank you.